Hey folks, Pat here from DNS, and this Madison area fishing report is current as of October 11th. Well, fall's a busy time, a lot of things changing, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's just get right into it. The salmon are definitely running up the tributaries that flow into Lake Michigan. We keep the Thiensville Fishway camera on here all day. It's on 24/7, but we keep it on here all day at the shop. It's just a cool thing to watch the salmon swim by. Of course, there's nothing swimming by right now as I am talking about it, but yesterday I bet I saw 100 salmon swim through, so some nice big kings. I'm not sure if I've seen any cohos yet. I don't look that close, but anyway, fish are moving up the rivers. It's an exciting time, and you also know that they're moving up the rivers when the Root River report comes out. So the DNR at their Root River Steelhead facility, they at different times of the year. I think it's based on water flows. So after a rain, they'll be down there for sure. But they pick fish out of there and harvest the eggs, and then they post a report as to the number of fish they're seeing. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I don't fish the Root River very much. I'm more of a Milwaukee River, Menominee River guy, but the number of coho here is insane. There's 755 coho and only 146 king salmon or Chinook salmon. So at least where I fish traditionally on the river, the king numbers, these numbers should be flipped. Way more kings than cohos, but I guess the reports from this summer had a lot of folks doing really well. The charters and stuff out on Lake Michigan were getting a lot of fish. So yeah, who knows? Maybe it's just going to be a great year for cohos. But either way, a lot of fish running up the river, a lot of fun, and that same steelhead facility is hosting an open house tomorrow, October 12th, from 9 to 3 p.m. Um, right down there. It's in what's it called, Lincoln Park, down there in Racine, and yeah, it's open to the public. They got the facility there. They got a viewing window where you can see fish swimming out in the river there that come through. And then they do egg harvesting demonstrations. They got like some fly casting, some other kids stuff. So yeah, if you got a kid, you want to go check out something cool, or even if you're a veteran angler, it's just a super cool thing, an opportunity to see those fish up close and how the DNR does the good work that they do. DNR also wants to remind folks that inland trout fishing season closes October 15th. That is this Tuesday. That'll be closing at midnight. So get out there and enjoy the last drops of trout season while they are here. So yeah, enjoy it while you can. I think that's it for like news. The front door doesn't have a ton in the way of fishing related stuff, but there is an event called Jam for Cans, which supports food pantries, and we donated a rod and reel combo to that. So we put a poster up. That's October 9th at the VFW in Cottage Grove. Trunk or treat going on up the street here at the Lutheran Church. If you got a kid that's and doing Halloween stuff, so that's on the 27th. And then the Maple Bluff Fire Rescue Open House and Recruitment Day, October 13th. I believe that's just at their county or city building over there. So yeah, check that out if you want. And if you do have any fishing related stuff coming up, we probably won't have much until the fisheries start now in the winter. But if you got some stuff you want to promote, bring it on in and we can put her up. I made a post earlier in the week. We got willy worms back, red ones, super popular. Been selling a lot of them already. I know people are excited to have those back, especially ever since Noah Humfeld's video. We're trying a new color here. This is a watermelon flake. Watermelon flake or like green pumpkin. This kind of color ish is a huge hit with bass and every other kind of plastic. So why not willy worms, right? Okay, I guess that pretty much does it for announcements. We can get into the report. It was another dry week here in Madison, and even though the nights have been cool, the days have been pretty warm. I think it's supposed to get over 80 today. Looks like a bit of a cool down over the weekend and into next week, but a warm up again as you go through the week. No rain in the forecast though, so make sure you get out and enjoy the nice weather. The Mendota Buoy site. Check this out, folks. Dun, 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 dun. It's back up. So actually, it's probably been up all summer. I just had a customer come in yesterday and tell me that he's been watching it, and I had no idea it's up. Turns out what they did was they changed the whole URL up here and everything. So I don't know who runs the site, so I don't know who to complain to, but you can just put a redirect on an old web page that'll take you to the new web page. So anyway. Looks like 63.9 degrees out there. We got winds at 6.9 miles per hour out of the southwest. Again, this is a great resource if you're looking to get out, want to know water temps, and it comes in super handy when we get closer to turnover here later in the season. So super glad that's back up and running. As far as water clarity goes, around the chain, it sounds like it's been good. Still a little bit green, but no algae blooms that I've heard of, and it really shouldn't be an issue from here on out. Now that things are cooling down, in fact, that'll probably be the last time I talk about water clarity until next summer. Pretty much the same thing with tournaments. Not any tournaments scheduled for this weekend. Not any in the calendar for all of November. So probably won't talk about those until we get into like ice fishery type news there. So otherwise, generally around the chain, I was talking with Noah Humfeld from Madison Angling Guide Service actually just this morning about the fall transition period we're in right now. It happens every year around this time when Mother Nature really can't decide if it's summer or fall. So some days the action's hot, other days not so much. With the cooler temps and shorter days upon us, the fish do know that winter isn't far away, and they're getting their fall feed bag on. But some days worms might be good, other days minnows might be good. I definitely lean more towards minnows this time of year, but you just never know. But generally speaking, most fish around the chain are moving up shallow. Mid-lake humps are still good, but anywhere you can find weeds, that's where you want to be. Shallow water with weeds. Bluegill action around town continues to be good, with gills being found in 10 feet of water and less now that weeds are starting to die back. But wherever you can find weeds, you'll likely find fish in pockets, on edges, and right in the thick of the weeds. The bluegill bite off the Monona Terrace wall continues to be good, but anywhere around the chain, a small jig tipped with a piece of redworm, spike, or waxworm is really all you need for the gills. Crappies continue to be elusive around the chain, but are being found here and there on weed edges and near structure. No matter where you fish, a crappie-sized minnow or a minnow-shaped plastic on a small jig is a pretty safe bet for those fish. Unfortunately, other than a few reports here and there, I'm still not hearing much in the way of perch around town. Have been hearing about a few white bass chasing schools of bait fish around, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Bass have been in a good mood around the chain. Largemouth are up shallow for the most part, and as the weeds continue to die back, that actually concentrates bass in what weeds are left. Weedless rig plastics and swim jigs are good options if you're in the thick of the weeds. But don't be afraid to run chatterbaits and lipless crankbaits now that some of the submerged weeds or weeds are coming down. You get it's a little more open water. Smallmouth are being found on rocky shoreline breaks in 10 to 15 feet of water, but also in shallow, rocky, weedy areas. Running paddle tail swim baits through those weeds have been very productive, and you'll likely find a few walleye mixed in there too. Speaking of, in addition to the shallow, rocky, weedy areas where walleyes are hanging out, they're still finding them on mid-lake humps in good numbers. On the bait side of things, large fatheads, blacktail chubs, small suckers are all solid choices. Otherwise, like I said, paddle tails, crankbaits, jerkbaits have all been working well during the day, but especially when those fish move up shallow at night to feed. And if you're casting from shore at night, you might as well just toss out a lighted bobber with a large fathead or something on it and kind of cover all your bases there. The musky bite's been good locally and will only improve as things continue to cool down. Pike are plentiful around the chain, but that action has especially been picking up on Mendota as those fish bulk up for winter. Area rivers and streams are all running at about their seasonal averages for this time of year, so low. Up here, a little more detail we can get into on Cherokee. A bunch of weeds up there still, but they are coming back. You can launch a small craft here at the school road launch, get out in the channel, and have a little easier casting and maybe better fishing. But I have heard about some action up there. 113 bridge, same thing. Catfish aren't really hanging around up there anymore, but they do catch one or two here and there. But it's a nice mixed bag. You might catch walleye, white bass, panfish. You never really know. Pike, bass, who knows? The catfish, like I said, have dispersed back out into Lake Mendota. They've been like that way since mid-June, and they'll be out there all winter and then come back in the spring. But anyway, they're catching them everywhere. I hear about them. People catching them pan fishing and people catching them trolling for walleyes. So there's that. As far as the bluegill action goes on Lake Mendota, though, the action really has been exceptional, especially compared to years past on Mendota. Lots of fish on outside weed edges and right in the weeds, but the fish are in the weeds pretty good. But also getting them on mid-lake humps. I'll touch on that a little bit later. Crappies are being picked up here and there as well. While the numbers aren't great, the size structure of those fish has been awesome. Like I mentioned, not much for perch reports that I've heard. The few folks that I talked to are having some success out here in the west end and a little bit more on the north bay here too. But we're talking about 8 feet of water, redworms, weed lines, but also maybe even more so right in the weeds. If you can punch through little pockets, that's great. But yeah, redworms have been working great. And you do have to sort through the smaller fish to find some nicer ones, but they are finding fish. I've been hearing about a couple 10 fish limits now. If you like white bass, though, I've been hearing about several reports of them chasing schools of bait fish around up here in Warner Bay. And so all you really have to do there is look for the gulls who are watching for the white bass busting schools of bait fish on the surface, and the gulls dive on those fish and kind of give up the spot. You can toss anything minnow-ish into that chaos, and you will likely get bit. Smallmouth bass, like I said, have been being found in 10 to 15 feet of water, but also very shallow. Noah is still getting them in running paddle tails through weedy, rocky areas near breaks, in even as shallow as 4 feet of water. But I've also been hearing about some good action in 10 to 15 feet of water in rocky areas with live bait. Like I said, picking up walleyes in with those smallmouth in the weeds, but also on mid-lake humps. So, you got your Dunn's Bar, Second Point, Brearley Bars, Commodore, all that stuff, all those classic spots are holding walleyes, but also some dandy bluegills in the weeds out there too. So those, it's a great spot to hit both those fish. As far as other fish go, the pike are super hungry this time of year, starting to bulk up. So, and we know there's a lot of them on Mendota and a chance at a real trophy. If you're shorebound fishing at night, the University Shoreline's been good. Tenny Park Breakwall and Warner Park Breakwalls have been good for walleyes. And like I mentioned, jerkbaits, paddle tails, all awesome. Throw out a lighted bobber, and you should be good to go. Hearing about lots of good night action down here for walleyes at Tenny Park, but also a nice mixed bag during the day. Below the lock and dams has been pretty hit or miss lately. But and of course, a lot of tiny gills in the lagoon if you got a young person you want to keep busy, and some good largemouth in there. But the same thing down here on Lake Monona. Pretty much gills are all moving into the weeds by now. So yeah, weed edges right in the weeds. Crappies, you might find some crappies mixed in with those fish, but they're also pretty rare down here. And actually, they've been getting a lot of gills over here at the Monona Terrace, along the Monona Terrace wall. Usually the crappie bite down there is good, especially in the evenings this time of year. That just hasn't materialized. So I don't know what's going on with the crappies, but yeah, they just haven't been around very much. But they are still out there here and there. Good bluegill bite in the Monona Bay, Brittingham Park neighborhood and the triangles. And that should get better as more and more gills move in there as they get ready for winter. Down to Lake Winger, tons of tiny gills. Weeds are starting to die back. The largemouth bass bites, good in there with a chance at some real giants. And the muskie bite's been picking up. And it will continue to pick up as we move into fall. The muskie bite out on Lake Monona has been great and is getting better. Noah Humfeld was telling me he's still doing very well with bucktails and topwater over the top of submerged weeds, like 10-ish feet of water. Haven't heard much in the way of walleyes. Some reports evening bite down here off the Monona Terrace wall and along John Nolan. And I guess as far as bass go, they're up shallow and in the weeds. So find some weeds and you'll probably find some bass. Down to Upper Mud, the dredge hole has also been holding fish. It always holds fish. So fish the weed edges out there. You might still find some fish suspended out over there. Otherwise, down on Lake Wabisa, good panfish action in the weeds on the north and south ends of the lake, along with some largemouth bass in there. Brian Zucchi was out with Larry Smith. They recorded a program. I think it just came out this last week. They were getting some good walleyes down here on bead lines, but I've heard pretty much some great action for walleyes on kind of this whole southeast end of the lake. There's good transition down there and structure for those fish. So that bite's been good. I also heard about some crappies in that same area. So give that a look. Over to Kegonsa. Don't usually hear about much off Kegonsa, but the panfish bite down there continues to be good. Most of the action I'm hearing about is up in the Fish Camp County Park area and down here sort of on the east end of the lake, southeast end of the lake off the state park. Speaking of state park, if you're looking for walleyes, the breaks out there off Williams Point can be great. I just haven't heard anything real specific, maybe a few fish here and there. The Rock River's running low for a change. After being high all summer, the action at the Indian Ford and Jefferson dams have been great. Haven't heard much off Koshkonong other than a mixed bag of fish, sheepshead, white bass, some crappies. Walleye have been pretty elusive. And, but yeah, like I said, Jefferson Dam, a good mixed bag up there. You got, haven't heard much off Beaver Dam in a while. I imagine the cats are still over there. It's just loaded with cats. Haven't heard much about the trout out on Devil's Lake other than being suspended. Once the water cools down and we get closer to like turnover cold, those fish are going to start moving and cruising the shallow shorelines, which can be a really exciting way to fish there. Wisconsin River also running low. But that concentrates the fish, like I always say. So concentrate on corners, deeper corners, downstream sides of sandbars. Look for smallmouth busting fish on the surface. Just toss anything minnow-like into that fray, and you will likely get hooked up. Otherwise, up and down the river, the dams have been super productive. Good mixed bag of fish. I've been hearing especially about a lot of white bass. If you like white bass, it's been really a good bite for them up there, and some walleyes starting to show up. But flowages like Lake Wisconsin. Been hearing about some walleyes. Actually, it sounds like the action's getting a little bit better. Trolling, shoreline breaks and stuff like that. There was a smallmouth bite up shallow, rocky shorelines, and I've been hearing about some good panfish action in all your bays, around the lake, and that goes for all the flowages and dams up and down the river. Um, Over to the Mississippi, haven't heard a ton off there. They're getting fish off break or what do you call them, wing dams, with some walleye and smallmouth hanging out there, panfish on rocky shorelines, and some perch too. If you can find some weeds, I guess has been one thing that I've heard about. So anyway, yeah, so we talked about it in the intro. So the salmon run is in full effect right now. So if you're looking for something cool to do, even if you don't fish, just go over there and check it out. If you're in Milwaukee, it's super cool seeing like giant, like 20-pound salmon swimming up through water that's like a foot deep, and all the folks that line the banks trying to catch them. It's definitely not a solitude thing. You're not going out there for peaceful solitude. It's what they call combat fishing sometimes, but generally folks are in a good mood, and it's a good time, and there's a lot of fish for everybody. But they can now swim since they have been opening up all the dams. The salmon don't have much trouble getting over the Estabrook Dam, I guess, although I think there is talks about getting rid of that. Clutch Park now has a fish passage that we discussed last fall. So those fish can swim all the way up here. That camera that I was talking about in the intro here at Thiensville, they can get up around with the fish passage there. So those fish can go all the way up here to, Grafton. And what is it up here? Saukville? Yeah, I think it's Grafton. Yeah, is the last dam that they can get to. Oh, yeah, it is. There's a dam right here in Grafton. So they get backed up there. But anyway, the idea is that hopefully those fish can find some good spawning grounds and get maybe start self reproducing. So that'd be super cool. So the DNR doesn't have to stock so many. But yeah, that action's happening all up and down the East Coast and will be good. The Kings are in right now. Cohos are coming right behind them. Or if you go to the Root River Steelhead facility, they are in there pretty thick. So anyway, I'll keep you posted on what I hear, and maybe I'll be over there this weekend with my boys checking that out. Like I said, trout season ends at midnight on the 15th, so get it while you can. For the most part, area creeks are running at normal levels, maybe a little on the low side. As always, on the spinning gear side of things, for poly countdowns, crappie-sized tube jigs, small spinners, or spoons are safe bets. If you're tossing meat, it's hard to beat a redworm under a bobber through runs and tailouts. Otherwise, on the fly side of things, mayfly and caddis hatches are becoming more frequent, so make sure you have some of those dry fly versions in your box. Otherwise, pretty much any little nymph, mayfly, or caddis nymphs, woolly buggers, and streamers will work most of the times of the day if the fish aren't looking up. If they are looking up, like I said, look for caddis and mayflies coming off. But I guess we'll talk about our happy fly day future here. Hoppers are definitely still working and, are a great option. But otherwise, like I said, this time of year, fish are looking for a little more meat as they stock up or bulk up for spawning here in the fall. So be sure to toss some streamers. We got a bunch of good selection here at the shop. Some standard like woolly bugger looking things. This is a jiggy meaty thing that Ben Lipchansky fishes. Looks great in the water. But anything big and streamer-ish is a great option, especially for this last weekend of trout. So if you get out, good luck on the trout streams. Good luck anywhere you fish. Go over and check out the salmon in Milwaukee. I do appreciate you tuning in. As always, feel free to call the shop at 241-4225 if you have any questions. Feel free to leave your catches and comments below. We love to see those, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.